From ancient times and throughout history, secret teachings were passed on from generation to generation by word of mouth and were enclosed in the guise of allegories and stories. More than in order to keep the teachings secret, this was because by their very essence these teachings cannot be given explicit expression because the conscious mind cannot express them. Furthermore, it cannot even comprehend them. Yet the soul can, and it is the soul to which stories speak. This is the power of myth, the power of parable, the means that has been used by all peoples of all cultures and times, and that was used as well by the ancient prophets and sages of Israel. However, since stories and parables are meant to reflect spiritual truths and the spiritual dynamics of the unseen worlds, when man corrupts those truths and dynamics by his inappropriate behavior on earth, when he corrupts his soul, this becomes reflected in the stories that man tells. The stories become corrupted, out of order. Then it takes a spiritual giant who is in touch with the spiritual worlds, one who can see these distortions, to be able to tell the stories in their proper order, to be able to thus set the spiritual worlds right. For as the soul to which the stories speak become realigned with the way things should be, this is then reflected in the spiritual worlds, and those truths and dynamics are set right. It is thus told that when the holy Baal Shem Tov was unable to repair damaged spiritual worlds with his prayers, he would do so by telling a story. Without a doubt, though, the storyteller put excellence of this genre was the holy Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. He not only retold well-known stories, telling them in their right orders, but created his own completely novel tales. Besides the moral teachings that are evident from these stories, they contain awesome Kabbalistic secrets, as he explicitly stated. He told these tales so precisely that he said that every single word in the story embodies enormous significance, and that changing even one word would have a major impact on the power of the tale. After Rabbi Nachman conveyed each of these stories, he revealed a drop in the ocean of their Kabbalistic significance. But any sincere seeker who is versed in the holy writings of the Kabbalah will be able to find allusions in them according to his understanding. But Rabbi Nachman's main goal in telling these stories was not the Kabbalistic teachings they embody, but the spiritual arousal that they can engender. Mankind, Rabbi Nachman teaches us, is asleep, spiritually asleep, spiritually comatose, floating through life in a dreamlike state, unaware of what life is truly about. These stories shake us out of our complacency, sometimes in uplifting ways, sometimes in shocking ways, and in other times in ways of which we are not even aware. For as said, these stories speak to our souls, bypassing our conscious minds. Though a translation can never do justice to such a work, and every translation is also inevitably an interpretation, nevertheless it is hoped that this English edition, for all its limitations, will rouse the souls of the readers to search for deeper meaning in life, to realize such deeper meaning does indeed exist, and to know that we can indeed find it if we truly sincere in our heart, as we can learn from the Viceroy who found the lost princess at the end of the first story. May God guide each of us on our unique way. The first story, the lost princess. Rabbi Nachman said, along the way I told a story, and everyone who heard it had thoughts of repentance, and it is as follows. Once there was a king who had 6 sons and 1 daughter. This daughter was very precious in his eyes. He loved her exceptionally and took great delight in her. One time he spoke with her and lost his temper, and the words, "May the no good one take you," slipped out of his mouth. In the evening, she went to her room, and in the morning, no one knew where she was. Her father was very distraught, and he went everywhere looking for her. The viceroy arose, seeing that the king was very troubled, and asked that he provide him with a servant, a horse, and money for the journey in order to search for her. He searched for a very long time until he found her. The following is the account of his search until he found her. He went from place to place for a very long time in deserts, fields, and forests. He searched for her a very long time. As he was crossing a desert, he saw a path to the side, and he thought to himself, "Seeing that I've been going such a long time in the desert and I cannot find her, I'll try this path. Maybe I'll come to a settled area." And he went a very long time on that path. Afterward, he saw a castle with several soldiers standing guard around it. The castle was very attractive and well built, and the soldiers were impressively aligned around it. He worried that the soldiers would not allow him to enter, but he said to himself, "I will go and try." He left the horse behind and approached the castle. The soldiers did not hinder him. He went from room to room without disturbance, and then came to a reception hall in which the king sat, wearing his crown. There were a number of guards and musicians with their instruments standing before him. It was all very pleasant and beautiful, and neither the king nor any of the others inquired about him at all. He saw there delicacies and fine foods, and he approached and ate them, and then went to lie down in a corner to see what would transpire there. He saw that the king ordered for the queen to be brought. They went to bring her, and there ensued a great commotion and joy. The musicians played and sang a great deal. Being that they were bringing the queen, they placed a chair for her and sat her next to the king. She was the above-mentioned princess, and he, the viceroy, saw it and recognized her. After that, the queen looked about and saw a man lying in a corner, and she recognized him. She stood from her chair and went over to him and nudged him and asked him, "Do you recognize me?" He answered, "Yes, I do. You, the princess who was lost." And he asked her, "How did you come to be here?" She answered, "Because my father blurted out the words, 'The no good one should take you,' and here this place is no good." He told her that her father was so very saddened and that he had been searching for several years. He asked, "How can I get you out of here?" She answered, "The only possible way to take me out is if your choice is if you choose a place. Dwell there for a full year. The whole year you must long to take me out. Any time that you have free, you should only long and request and hope to free me. You should also fast. And on the last day of the year, you should fast and not sleep the entire day." And so he went to do this. On the last day of the year, he fasted and did not sleep, and then rose and began the journey back. On the way, he saw a tree, and on it were growing very attractive apples. They were tantalizing to his eyes, and he approached and ate from them. Immediately after having eaten, he fell asleep, and he slept a very long time. His servant would try to wake him, but to no avail. When he finally awoke from his sleep, he asked the servant, "Where in the world am I?" The servant told him the story. "You were sleeping a very long time, several years, and I survived on the fruit." He was very pained upon hearing this. He returned there and found her, and she revealed her great distress to him. "If you had only come on that day, you would have removed me from here, and because of one day, you lost everything. Nevertheless, it is very difficult not to eat, especially on the last day, when the evil inclination is very overpowering." That is to say, the princess told him that now she would make the conditions more lenient, that from now he would not be expected to fast, for that is a very hard condition to meet. So now choose a place again and dwell there also a year, as before. On the last day you will be allowed to eat, only you must not sleep and must not drink wine, so that you should not fall asleep. The essential thing is not to sleep. He went and did accordingly. On the last day, as he was returning, he saw a spring with a red appearance and the fragrance of wine. He asked the servant, "Did you see that spring that ought to have had water in it? But its color is red, and its scent is of wine." He went and tasted from the spring, and he immediately fell into a sleep that lasted several years, 70 to be exact. Great numbers of soldiers passed with their wagons and equipment, but the servant hid himself from the soldiers. After that passed a covered carriage, and in it sat the princess. She stopped by him, descended and sat by him, recognizing who he was. She shook him strongly, but he did not wake. And then she bemoaned, "How many immense efforts and travails he has undergone these many years in order to free me. And because of one day on which he could have freed me, he lost it." She cried a great deal about this, saying, "There is a great pity for him and for me, that I am also here so very long and cannot leave." After that, she took a handkerchief from her head and wrote upon it with her tears and laid it by him. Then she rose and boarded her carriage and rode away. When he awoke, he asked the servant, "Where in the world am I?" So he told him the whole story, that many soldiers had passed there, and that there had been a carriage and a woman who wept upon him and cried that there is a great pity on him and on her. In the midst of this, he looked around and saw that there was a handkerchief lying next to him. He asked, "Where did this come from?" The servant explained that she had written upon it with her tears. He took it and held it up against the sun and began to see the letters, and he read all that was written there, all her mourning and crying, and that she is no longer in the aforementioned castle, and that he should look for a mountain of gold and a castle of pearls. There he would find her. He left the servant behind and went to look for her alone. He went for several years searching and thought to himself, "Certainly a mountain of gold and a castle of pearls will not be found in a settled area," for he was an expert in geography. He went to the deserts and searched for her many, many years. After a long time, he saw a giant man, far beyond the normal human limits of size. He was carrying a massive tree, the size of which was not found in settled areas. The man asked him, "Who are you?" He answered, "I am a man." The giant was amazed and exclaimed, "I have been here in the desert such a long time, and I have never seen a man here." He told him the whole story, and that he was searching for a mountain of gold and a castle of pearls. The giant answered him, "Certainly it does not exist at all." He discouraged him and said that they had muddled his mind with nonsense, for it surely does not exist. He started to cry bitterly, for he felt certain that it must exist somewhere. But this giant discouraged him, saying that certainly he had been told nonsense. Yet he, the viceroy, still said that it must exist. The giant said to him, "I think it is nonsense, but since you persist, I am appointed over all the animals. I will do this for you. I will call them all, for they traverse the whole world. Perhaps one of them will know where is the mountain and the castle." He called them all, from the smallest to the largest, all the variety of animals, and asked them, and all of them answered that they had not seen these things. He said, "You see that they told you nonsense? If you want my advice, turn back, because you certainly will not find it, for it does not exist." But he pleaded passionately with him, saying, "It absolutely must exist." The giant said to him, "Behold, in this desert also lives my brother, and he is appointed over all the birds. Perhaps they know, since they fly at great heights. Perhaps they saw this mountain and castle. Go to him and tell him that I have sent you." He went searching for him for several years. Again, he found the giant carrying a massive tree. The giant also asked him as had the first, and he told him the whole story and that his brother had sent him to him. This giant also discouraged him, saying that if it certainly did not exist, and he pleaded with him as he did with the first. And then the giant said to him, "See, I am appointed over all the birds. I will call them, perhaps they know." He called all the birds and asked them from the smallest to the largest, and they answered that they did not know anything about this mountain and castle. The giant said to him, "You see, it certainly does not exist. If you want my advice, turn back, for it simply does not exist." He pleaded with him, saying, "It certainly must exist." The giant then said to him, "Further ahead in the desert lives my brother, who is appointed over all the winds, and they fly over the whole world. Perhaps they know." He went several more years searching until he found this giant also, who was also carrying a giant tree. The giant asked him as the others had, and he told him the whole story as before. But the giant discouraged him as before. He pleaded with him as well. So the third giant said to him that for his sake he would call all the winds and ask them. He called them, and all the winds came, and he asked them all, but not one of them knew about the mountain and the castle. The giant said to him, "You see, they told you nonsense." The viceroy began to cry bitterly and said, "I know that it does indeed exist." As they were speaking, one more wind came. The giant appointed over them was annoyed with it, saying, "Why did you not come with the rest?" It answered, "I was delayed, for I needed to carry a princess to a mountain of gold and a castle of pearls." And the viceroy was overjoyed. The giant asked the wind, "What is expensive there? That is to say, what things are considered valuable and important there?" It answered him, "Everything there is very expensive." So the giant appointed over the wind said to the viceroy, "Seeing that you have been searching for her such a long time and you went through many difficulties, perhaps now you will be hindered by expenses. Therefore I am giving you this vessel. Every time you reach into it, you will receive money from it." He then commanded the previous wind to take him there. The wind came storming and brought him there, right to the gate. There were guards posted there that would not let them enter the city. So he reached into the vessel, took out the money and bribed them, and entered the city. It was a beautiful city. He approached a man and rented lodgings, for he would need to stay there sometime, because it would need much intelligence and wisdom to free her. How he freed her, the Rebbe did not tell, but in the end, he freed her.